Hi guys, it's Sarah with Sarah Speaks. And today I am actually not talking about Harry and Meghan, although there are a few things that have come out in the last day since I talked to you guys. But this time I actually wanted to talk about another second son from a uber wealthy and powerful family. Can you guess who it is? Yes. Another messy person who doesn't seem to be able to wrap his head around the privilege that he has, like Harry, and actually has had some hardships. I will, say this, has had some hardships in his family, in his life, actually. I should say life like Harry has, right? They both lost their mothers when they were young. They'd been raised in the public eye, but I just wanted to get on here today and share this with you about Hunter Biden. The news is so saturated with uh, so many things. And Hunter Biden does come up very frequently. I think the threads between the powerful are so strong and have largely been, until the reality of the internet, have largely been invisible. And I think what we're seeing now are these patterns between all of them. They're interconnected. They protect one another. And if you or I ended up in court for the same things that some of these people, not just Hunter Biden, ended up in court for, I would venture to say we would not quite get the deals that they're getting. Although I will make note of what happened not that long ago with Hunter Biden and his indictment on the gun charges. And it is an indictment, and there was a plea deal. And I have my notes over here again because this is the way that I'm going to have to do it for a little while. But we have to remember that in mid-September, he was indicted for allegedly lying on a form to acquire a handgun in 2018. That he lied as far as being an illegal drug user in possession of a gun. Okay. Who else does that sound like as far as immigration papers? Of course, we don't know what's going on with Harry and the immigration papers because the Homeland Security Department is not releasing that information. And yes, it is private information to a certain degree, but there is a compelling public interest in this, right? Just like there's a compelling public interest in Hunter Biden and the Biden family and what's gone on. I mean, there's a lot of messy stuff going on around the family right now. So we will be able to see in October 3rd, that's when he's going to court in the first ever prosecution of a sitting U.S. president's child. And we have to remember that in September, the plea bargain that he made to get these charges not released but taken care of, the plea bargain that was made fell apart because allegedly his attorneys called the court to say that evidence that was presented by the whistleblowers in Congress that was submitted by the prosecution be taken away because they were pretending to be the prosecution attorneys. Hopefully I said that correctly. It's a little complicated when I say it that way, but really his attorneys were allegedly pretending to be the prosecutors and wanting that evidence redacted and taken away from the court case. And of course, the judge was like, no, no. And actually, she did not really there were no real sanctions against it except don't you do this. And we are, the plea bargain's now off the table. So they really did do themselves one in the eye for doing that. But that wasn't what I was going to talk about today. Like I said, it's very messy. Lots of stuff going on with the Biden family. But they're not the only political family that's in the United States who are very, very powerful. And they're also not, they're not the only ones who have probably made, allegedly, my opinion, made some financial benefit from being close to power. And that is, I mean, that's the story as old as time, right? As the Disney film says, right? The tale is old as time. I think that was Beauty and the Beast. Either way, this is how it works. It's been this way. You look through history, it's been this way. The royal families have been this way. But it's the gross misunderstanding of their privilege that I want to talk about today. And that was why I brought this New York Post article up. And I do want to point out with the New York Post, yeah, some of their stories are a little, they're a little tabloidy, let me put it that way. But remember, in the 2020 election, they were the ones that broke the story about the Hunter Biden laptop, right? Being dropped off at this IT computer repair place. The guy, Hunter Biden, never picked it up. He didn't remember even dropping it off, which when you were in that state, I would imagine with his addictions and what he was struggling with, he probably didn't remember dropping it off. And then the guy, the computer repairman said, I'll just strip this computer and sell it. And as a refurb, I imagine. And then what happened is he looked and he was like, oh my gosh, I have to turn this into the FBI. But when the New York Post reported this story, it was deemed as fake news. And this was in the height of that presidential election, and New York Post was slammed for being, spreading false information. They were taking the articles taken off of social media sites. It was a really bad situation when you talk about First Amendment rights and the ability for the press to do their job and free speech. They are allowed to publish. Now, this showed the issue with private platforms like social media. Do any of us really have free speech on these platforms? And the actual answer is not free speech as it's lined out in the First Amendment, but there is free speech. You just got to avoid some fix, right? But I did want to point that out about the New York Post. So let's go through this article again with the idea in mind that this particular group of people, they live in a different world than the rest of us. And I want to point out that sure, the unemployment numbers look really good, but if you're not getting paid to the level where you can survive within the world you're in, then unemployment numbers actually don't matter that much if you're not getting paid well, so you can pay the electricity bill that's gone up 300%, or the food bill that's gone up 50 to 100%, or you just go on with that. And that's not just here in the US, that is all over the world what's going on. And people are working so hard, they've got side hustles, it just is never ending. And it just, my opinion is my opinion, yours is yours. I just think if you work your time at your full-time job, you should be able to survive on what you earn, especially if it's supposedly a good position, right? Be that as it may, there's a lot to that whole employment picture as well. But right now we're looking at the uber wealthy and how out of touch they actually are with the regular people. So of course, the headline is Hunter Biden whines his money is all gone, seeks dad's help in newly revealed text because he can't pay alimony. Now, this was just published last night by the New York Times, and these text messages were actually from December 2018. And they were revealed because of the IRS whistleblower documents, because the IRS and Congress is actually, and so Congress. Anyway, there is a federal prosecutor, I believe, involved. I didn't write it down in my notes over here. But there are issues. There are a lot of issues here, but I don't want to concentrate on that so much as the attitude of the uber wealthy and the privilege that they seem to have, that the privileged attitude that maybe they don't have to work as hard. I don't know. I think I would like to get your opinion on this, because it's not just Hunter Biden that made money from the proximity to Joe Biden. It was the whole family. It was is and probably still is a family business, but that's my opinion. Um, they all made millions, as do many, many congressional members. So that's something to think about. How do you rehaul the system so there is not a pay for play in place? And can you do that? Because you're dealing with humans, and humans are just going to human, right? But this is what I thought was interesting. Was he tells his uncle that the millions of dollars that he scored from his business deals abroad was all gone. Okay, so he had a pretty extravagant lifestyle, and he could no longer afford school tuition for his three daughters or even basic living expenses. I mean, actually, when you're living that lifestyle, you could actually see this happening. You see it with lottery winners a lot. Um, they just spend the money instead of investing it, because money makes money if you make it make money. But if all you're doing is spending the money, you're going to be in deficit, and it's going to be really quickly. But this is what I thought was interesting too. He says, I can work when I'm in NYC all day, every day for the next 3 months, but I can't pay alimony without dad, or tuitions, or food, or for food and gas. Really, it's all gone. I can't, let's see, I can go make it up in 15 to 20 days. And I want you to concentrate on that. 15 to 20 days. He says he can make this money up. So he's in a privileged position that if he's out of work or has run out of money, he can actually go and have the connections to make that up in 15 or 20 days, or at least that's what he's saying. Whereas the rest of us, if we don't have a job in today's job market, especially, of course, this is a few years ago, but it's the same premise, right? It's going to take us quite a few months living on our savings, maybe living on our savings, because most of us don't have families that can help us. Even if we're in the middle to upper middle class, everybody's on this slow descent downwards, quite frankly. And we don't have those options or opportunities to go and make money like the uber wealthy do. But Joe Biden basically made it clear that he's not paying alimony because mom made clear that she won't do it, which I think is one of the funniest comments in here. But anyway, so obviously his mom was like, nah, we're not doing that. So I wanted to point that out to you too. So there's this whole thing. Okay. So he can't pay the alimony, he can't pay the food, but he can supposedly make it up within 15 or 20 days of working or cutting deals, I should say. But I said this about the other one, but this is the one that I wanted to share with you. This was the quote that really got me, and I want you to think of it in the perspective of family. Just family. If you have a child, if you have a niece, you have a nephew, you have parents, you are the child. And this shows the attitude really of these people. So the uncle actually says this can work if you need a safe harbor, which my argument is this guy's, I mean, he's in his late 40s at this point. He's been given safe harbor his entire life. And I can work with you father alone, is what the uncle responded. We as usual just need several months of his help, which that is a little concerning for this to work. Let's talk about it. It makes perfect sense to me. This is difficult to fully vet without talking. So obviously you take it off the texts, you take it out of email, you talk about it in person. No one's recording. There's no record. Okay. Just putting that out there. Um, so then they go into the whistleblowers um, saying that James Biden, President Joe Biden's brother, was not asked about this exchange due to an environment established by the assigned prosecutors in which the investigators were afraid to ask questions. I would be too, quite frankly. But this was the thing. This was the message. This was the message I wanted to share with you guys. The messages complicate a previously reported exchange between Hunter and his daughter Naomi, who is probably in her mid-20s at this time. Mid, probably maybe 25, 26, January 2019, in which the first son claimed he'd had to fork over half of his salary to his father. This is the quote. I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years, he said. It's really hard, but don't worry, unlike Pop, that seems to be President Biden, I won't make you give me half your salary. That's like a mind blown statement. That is the statement of someone who is so out of touch with reality and has no clue that he wouldn't even be in the position to make the money that he's made without his father. And he states further up that in his late 40s, his father is still picking up for him. His father's still paying for him, except for the alimony, because mom doesn't want to pay for the alimony. That's where she put her foot down. But they pay for the school, they pay for the rent, they probably pay for the food. Hunter Biden lived in his dad's houses, his mom and dad's houses. And I just needed to share this with you because it shows that people who are running this country, running other countries, this is their attitude. This is the attitude of their children. Maybe it's not their attitude, but they are so involved in this lifestyle of uber privilege. They are so involved in years and years and years of wealth that they have forgotten where they come from, which is where the rest of us, quite frankly, live. I mean, we saw it just a week or so ago with Oprah on the Rock, right? And their plea for money for Maui, which they absolutely need the help in Maui. They still need the help in Maui. But go find what Jason Momoa said about that, because he's got Venmos that you can actually donate directly to the people of Maui, because you don't need the middle person anymore. You don't need an Oprah Winfrey or a Rock to donate your money to them and then they give the money. You can donate it directly to whoever you want with Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, all sorts of stuff. And the information is out there. But it's this attitude, I think, that we really need to pay attention to from their kids. Now, are all the kids like this? No. Some of them work really, really hard, but they are raised in this bubble. And they have no idea the reality of what life is like for pretty much the other 99% of the population. And you have this 1% who are making decisions for the rest of us. And in the New York Post case, during the election, they were squashing free press by deeming it, you know, false news when it wasn't false news. And I don't think enough has been made of that. And the thing is how much else are we just not even seeing that's true, that's accurate? Because these people who are running the country are a little bit out of touch. Just something to think about. But like I said, I had to show this to you when he said that he was paying half his salary to his dad. Well, when you're in your late 40s and your dad pretty much has supported you your whole entire life. I mean, and what parent wouldn't help their child out and not expect payment back? At some point, though, when your child gets old enough, they have to start being responsible. And part of that may be the parent going, you know what? Got to pay the money back. I mean, and for him to say that he supported his family, if I'm reading this correctly, let's read it again. I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. I mean, that's oopsie daisies. There's a pop-up. Let's see if I can close it, Mr. Southwest. So let's scroll down just a little bit. So the Post previously reported Hunter was routinely on the hook for his father's household expenses, as itemized by longtime business partner Eric Schwern. But the problem is, I hopefully pronounced that correctly, the problem is he's living in his father's house. That's not supporting your family and pay for everything. That's paying your way. That's actually paying for your expenses. And then the text also shed further light on the financial entanglements of the Biden family, which have served as the nexus of an impeachment inquiry launched by House Republicans. And that was this week. So that, like I said earlier, there's a lot to this, and it's really, really messy. But the fact that this son, who is messy, let's face it, I mean, his artwork should never if you or I painted artwork like that, nobody would have been interested in buying our artwork. That's my opinion. I'm not an art critic. I enjoy art, but I'm also not an artist, which tells you something, right there. But um it's just the uber privilege, the out of touchness. And I think these connections, the connections they all have, and the fact that they can shut down a New York Times article during an election. Would it make a difference? I don't think so personally. The country was way too entrenched in its own self, and quite frankly, the upcoming election is going to be interesting too. Um, I'll tell you who I will be betting on as far as the dark horse, and they're not even in the race. Maybe you can guess who it is. Let me know in the comments if you do. But I just wanted to hop on here and show this to you. They're completely out of touch and they're completely connected. And that's something we all need to remember. So live your life, take care of yourself, take care of your family, but be realistic too. We'll talk to you later. Bye.